I've always had a secret. I can hear the thoughts of people who don't love me, not emotions. Not vibes, not vague instincts, but actual thoughts, clear, precise, and cruel. Which means I've never misunderstood anyone's feelings toward. I know instantly who's sincere and who's pretending, who's smiling out of politeness, and who's quietly calculating how to use me. So I've never been afraid of cutting people off, fake friendships gone, plastic sisterhoods blocked. Men who confessed after watching me for years exposed before they finished their first sentence because their thoughts are loud, overlapping, clashing, piling up in my head like an endless crowd shouting at once. And to survive daily life, I learned one rule early on. Avoid eye contact with strangers, because if I don't meet their eyes, the noise stays away, and that rule worked perfectly for most of my life, except for one man, the only person I had ever met whose mind was completely silent. The man I fell in love with, trusted, and eventually agreed to marry. Never imagining that 1 week before our wedding I would hear his thoughts for the first time. And that they would say this: wear sneakers tomorrow, easier to run after stealing the bride. That silence was what made me stay when I met Daniel. Right at a charity gala, the kind where money pretends to be kindness and conversations are polished within an inch of dishonesty. I was heading toward the balcony when he stopped me, holding a glass of red wine with a polite but unforced smile, asking slightly awkwardly if he could introduce himself. And when I lifted my head and our eyes met, there was suddenly nothing. No voices, no whispers, no hidden intentions crawling through my skull. Just silence so complete it startled me into forgetting to respond. And even when he nervously added his name and said I could ignore him if I wanted, the silence remained. The first time in my life I heard nothing at all. So I stayed and we talked about travel, work, architecture, books, and the quiet held. And later when he confessed with trembling hands and a bouquet of roses, promising softly and sincerely to treat me well for the rest of my life, I searched his eyes and still heard nothing. So I believed him. We dated for 2 years, moved in together, met each other's families, planned a future. And during those 2 years I never once heard Daniel's thoughts, not during arguments, not during intimacy, not even when he proposed, and the quiet convinced me more than words ever could. So when we decided to get married, I agreed without hesitation. 1 week before the wedding, Daniel had been busy, not suspiciously so, but genuinely overwhelmed after officially taking over his father's financial firm, buried under board meetings, investors, contracts, and midnight calls. And though I respected ambition and believed in giving each other space, we barely saw each other in the 2 months leading up to the wedding, which is why I looked forward to our final fitting at the atelier. Some rare quiet time together, only to arrive on time and find Daniel already there, speaking gently into his phone while giving instructions to staff. And just as I watched him with mild amusement, a voice pierced my mind: wear sneakers tomorrow. Easier to run, my breath stopping as I stared at his lips waiting for them to move, but they didn't. And the thought continued running. After stealing the bride, as the world tilted, summer heat vanished from my body, something cold crawling into my bones, and I realized I could hear him, Daniel's thoughts, for the first time ever, understanding immediately what that meant. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a staff member discreetly slide a pair of lightweight sneakers into Daniel's garment bag. Daniel nodding and turning to leave, and though my instinct tried to label it our usual signal for urgent business, I had never misheard a thought in my life, so I followed him outside and called his name, needing to hear more. Only for him to apologize quickly and claim a client emergency. A lie confirmed when his thoughts grew louder: if I don't go now, she stay mad all night. She, not me. Instead of crying or yelling, I followed logic, asking his secretary out for coffee that afternoon, not needing questions because her thoughts spilled everything. Irene Shaw, his first love, the woman his family never approved of, born into money without legitimacy, humiliated and driven away years ago, returning 2 months ago exactly when Daniel became impossibly busy. And as I listened calmly while the truth assembled itself, I understood he hadn't fallen for me at first sight but for familiarity, because I looked like her. And now that she was back, there was no need for me anymore. I laughed softly, then harder, realizing I'd become a walking cliché. The placeholder fiancé, the substitute bride, the disposable woman in someone else's unfinished love story. with the plan being a theatrical, cruel public humiliation. Meant to break me, which is why 2 hours later I booked a first-class ticket overseas, deciding that if they wanted a spectacle, I'd give them one. When I left, the wedding venue was already buzzing under crystal chandeliers and white roses. Everyone thinking the same thing, that this wedding would be unforgettable, though they didn't know why yet. And as I walked through the hall one last time, the voices flooded back, proclaiming fate and reunion and the bride's bad luck, while inside I was already gone, confirmed further when my best friend Tina took my suitcase, refused to stop me, and joked about packing dignity and spare shoes, so I changed out of my custom gown, folded it carefully, left it on the sofa, and walked out the back entrance without tears or goodbyes. 5 minutes after the ceremony officially began, my phone exploded with Tina's messages and shaky videos whispering that it was actually happening, showing Irene walking onto the stage in my dress, taking the microphone, declaring love doesn't follow schedules, asking Daniel if he'd leave with her, hearing him say yes to applause and gasps, zooming in on the white sneakers under his tailored suit, watching her graciously claim he belonged with her and hope I could bless them, only for confusion to erupt backstage when no bride appeared. The dressing room lay empty. Panic spread. And the projector suddenly lit up with bold red letters announcing the wedding was canceled. The groom had cheated. The bride had chosen to leave. And everyone should enjoy the performance, followed by photos, messages, receipts. Proof that killed every whisper before chaos exploded. Phones recording. Guests staring at the word cheated in red. No one caring about the couple frozen on stage anymore because the bride had vanished, until everyone's phones buzzed with my final post repeating the same statement and evidence. Someone shouting that the bride ran. I sat in an airport lounge watching time tick by, boarding my plane, turning on airplane mode and laughing not bitterly, just satisfied, while Tina's live commentary showed parents arguing, staff running, Daniel's mother slapping him. Irene stunned. The couple escorted off stage with no cheers, no blessing, no ending, only noise. Because by the time they realized, the bride was already gone. The world moved on quickly, and so did I, leaving quietly without social media drama. My parents treating the canceled wedding like dodging a bad investment, since legally Daniel and I were never married. Clean and untangled, while news spread. Anyway, of his family's humiliation, his authority slipping, meetings excluding him, decisions bypassing him, his cousin quietly taking over, his rushed marriage to Irene collapsing within a year under the weight of reality, their brutal, expensive divorce leaving him financially shaken. And 2 months later, his phone call asking forgiveness, admitting everything felt wrong, which I ended by telling him he didn't miss her but who he was when he couldn't have her, after which I offered no second chances. I lived well instead, marrying a man who loved me quietly, without spectacle or chaos, having a daughter named Lily. Until years later in a mall she bumped into Daniel, now worn and diminished, meeting him briefly over coffee where I declined. Reconnection, explaining the version of me he loved was gone. And as we parted, Lily asked why the little prince chose the rose, to which I replied it was because she was the one he took responsibility for. Watching Daniel fall silent as he handed her a new copy of the book, and as we drove away I heard no thoughts from him, just like the first day we met, because love only feels beautiful when unfinished. And I refused to stay that way, leaving him behind, trapped forever in memory.